something for my godson Elijah and a little girl named Corinne. Some say the blacker the better, the sweeter the juice. I say the darker the flesh and the deeper the root.
But she said, I'm not really sure, but he could be just speaking to you to tell you that you need to be more aware about things. And it's funny because I pray constantly because I struggle through my life, you know, like even currently, you know, I've been going through like a really tough time in my life, like the last several years. And a lot of people don't know. Some people know some of the information, but a lot of people don't know the full extent of it. But I'm constantly just praying to God to just say, hey, you know, like, tell me what I'm doing wrong so I can get it right. Because I don't want to keep going through this struggle. You know, I don't want to keep messing up my life in ways that I know I could avoid. But for whatever the reason, I'm making the decisions based off of how I feel emotionally. Even
Wait
though,
a minute, you gotta stop right there.
I'm trying to tell
You gotta stop right there. That's what this is about. That's what this whole self-relationship and self-reflection is about. How do you make your decisions? And the ones that don't benefit you, what emotion are you coming from?
right.
What emotion are you coming from?
And lots of times, you know, and I just had this conversation with a friend just last night. And I told him, I said, you know, when people, even yourself, when you tell yourself things or someone else says something to you that you know, it makes all the sense in the world. It does. And you know it's the right thing.
Yeah.
But what you're feeling in that moment persuades you to make a different choice.
Oh, wow.
And for me, I'm so guilty.
Yes.
I won't lie to anybody about it. I'm straight up about my stuff.
Yes.
You know, you talk about accountability partners. I'm my own kind of
Let me
accountability
tell you
partner.
something. So just to give a little background story, me and Chaz was in the military together. I've never met a real person. I've never met a real person in my entire life. She would tell me how it is. I'm gonna tell you about your stuff. She done told me about myself plenty of times. And in fact, just to sidebar a little bit, I said, you knew me before the pink and the beige. I said, you knew me with black, gray, and brown, and jeans and boots. So I said, she know the other side. And you have told me a couple times, I'm going to not only tell you about yourself, but I'm going to tell you about me. But you real. You got to be one of the realest people. So if I had to have accountability partner and I tell her something, she's like, I'm about to tell you how it is. And I'm like, okay, Jazz. But so, and that's why I'm so happy that you're here. But look, we're gonna definitely come back. I'm gonna get through some of the questions so people could expound. Okay. But I'm loving this. We gotta do this for longer.
Yeah.
More wine, more cheese. But go ahead, Brenda. Go ahead. What's your next one?
We have comments from the listeners.
Oh yeah, we do. We have a lot. Go ahead, read them off.
Gordon Timmons says, I have my best friend Stacy. I trust her always.
That's me. Okay, who's next?
And I have a couple of people, family members, who refuse to give me anything but the truth, even if it's harsh. I think she's talking about me. Have always been set up that way, and I'm grateful for it because it gives me confidence going out into the world where I can't count on honesty.
Wow. Tammy Michelle says hi to one.
Somebody just shared the same dream sequence with me. I think she's talking about the dream you were talking about, Chad. And she said, God calling out their name and telling them to turn around.
Can I just tell you something real quick about that? That happened even more recently. I was asleep, like in the middle of waking up and still not wanting to wake up.
Right.
And what woke me up was I felt a tap. I swear to God, like I had a tap on my back, and I'm waking up and I'm like, okay.
Wow.
But you know, I related to the dream that I had. But I just wanted to throw that in there.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
God is he's trying to reach out. He's trying to make me hear him.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm paying more attention than I ever had before in my life.
Yeah.
You know, if I could just say that I was under the impression that happened to everybody. I really was. I might sound like I mean I'm really coming out of, you know, maybe even pure ignorance. I thought that was something everybody is. I've heard the whispers. I felt this, you know, or even caught something out of the corner of my eye, something that just alerts you to your surroundings, even in a daydream and I truly believe that it is your guardian. I truly believe that it's God. I truly believe that that's how he protects us. That's how He
Right.
watches over us. I just truly thought, and maybe people aren't in touch to it, but if I had to guess, I think it happens to everybody.
And when you
If
talk
you're a
about
believer, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
and I've been a believer all my life, but
Right.
it's never happened to me up until recent
Maybe you
times.
just weren't in tune
I
to
wasn't
it.
paying attention.
Right.
because there's so
Right.
many. That's why I said we live in constant
We're so
duality.
fast, right.
I had been in situations where I was up to no good, nothing criminal, but I'm
Allegedly.
serious. That voice used to be like, "You need to,
Slow
you
down.
need to leave," and I'm like, "I'll pray about it tomorrow." But, trust me, I was there. But that voice, I'm telling you, you have that
You
inner
have it.
voice,
You
and it's
have it.
really. When you talk about the emotional states, the emotion doesn't necessarily have to be negative. It could be something
Sure.
that you just excited about, and you're like, I'm just gonna stick around for this one. But I know you're watching. This is the best. But anyway, but I'm just saying that. What emotion and what voice are you listening to? So that's what I'm saying. We really do have to pay attention. We gotta pay attention to our thoughts. And sometimes people are like, it's God. People really think it is, and some stuff you're like,
Maybe it's
when
not.
maybe when somebody walk up to you talking about God told me, and I'm like, He did not tell you that. That's telling me. It's a lot of voices. People be hearing some stuff. You don't
You
know.
don't always know.
You don't always know, but even for yourself, sometimes I question. I'm like, okay, where is that coming from? And at the same time, how would it benefit me? How would it hurt me?
Right.
Sometimes with your thoughts, you have enough time to slow it down and say, how would this benefit me? You don't have to immediately make a decision.
Right.
You
That's
can
key.
slow it down and say, how true is that? That's the one thing that has changed my life a lot. And I said this to you guys in the past. How true is that? Anytime something comes, well, you know what? How true is that? When I have self-doubt, going through self-esteem, all of that stuff, I think I can't do something. I'm like, well, how true is that? And the brain will give you a response. Well, it really isn't true.
Isn't that all about what we say in that it boils down to the relationship you have with yourself? This crossed my mind when I knew that we were having this conversation today. I'm a firm believer in not letting negative vibes in my home. Now I understand that it can get in my head at work. I can't stop people. It's a public place. I can't stop people. But when it comes to my door sill, I'm very, very protective of the energy that comes in. And the relationship I have with myself is so protective of my thoughts, so protective of my own personal energy, that just like what you do, because I love myself so much and I value my core, I value my thoughts, I value how I look at myself every day so much that I refuse to allow things that aren't going to benefit me, progress me, grow me in the direction that I want to go in. I just block it. I have to be linebacker of my own life.
You really do.
I have to.
You gotta defend.
I have to defend.
You really do.
And I'm a maniac when it comes to the energy that you bring across my door sill. So much that, my responses are always, so, let's talk in the yard.
Yeah.
I like that.
Let's have this conversation about
Let's talk on Facebook. How about you just go home and
Go home and text me.
Yeah. How about you inbox me on Facebook?
No, better yet, how about you wait for me to call you?
Yeah. But come on, we haven't heard much from D. So come on, D, jump right in it. So what do you think about the self-talk and the inner conversation?
It's funny what Sherry said about blocking that energy. It is very important. I'm a huge proponent of that. I'm very outgoing on here, but personally, I consider myself sort of an introvert.
Okay.
Because I am very careful of who I let in my space. I prefer to text certain people than talk. That can sound mean. But sometimes if you give some people too much, it drains you. So if we can get it done through text, I'm going to get it done through text. And then if it requires a conversation, depending on who it is. I am going to do that. A perfect example is I'm all about family and everything. I had a situation where a family member, I'm well recovered from my divorce at this time. It was a dark place. However, I got my life back on track.
That's great.
Me and my children are where we need to be. I'm in a great space, and I can't allow anything to infiltrate that space, right? So a family member called me out of the blue and needed a place to stay, and I'm practicing this thing that I did not use when she called. I'm practicing telling any and everybody, let me get back to you.
Wow.
There's nothing wrong with saying that,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
Just say, let me get back to you.
Yeah,
Whatever it is.
That's right.
She was telling me she needed a place and I did not use my rule. I said, oh, okay, it should be okay. We should be able. But that self-talk came and said, you work so hard, you're in this space, you have stuff going on, you're asking God to propel you to different places. You can't stand for it. Your space, your environment, your thought process to be interrupted. You work so hard. So I had to call her back and say, I can't do it.
Oh, that's great.
I can't do it.
Right.
And one of my girlfriends says, I'm so proud of you because that's like major. I said, you know what? Because I refuse, no matter who it is.
Wow.
I said, if I can help you in any other way,
Yes.
That's great.
I'll be willing to, but I knew it will set me back emotionally, my environment, everything.
boy, yeah.
So
Wow.
it didn't go over well.
Calling me back.
But put yourself
But
first.
you were good.
Right,
Yeah.
put yourself
Yeah.
first,
Yeah.
and now you have a peace of mind.
Yes.
Right.
Because that's what it boils down to.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
That
When you
peace
think
of
about
mind
her
is really
situation,
That's it.
how often does that? I know it has happened to everybody.
Yes.
Right.
I definitely.
And it's
Yeah.
very hard to say no,
Yes.
especially
That
when
was
it's
hard.
family and
Yes.
you get the story.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you know what? I said, no, I can't do it. I just
Yes.
cannot do it. I
Wow.
can't afford another setback. It wasn't, not to mention, she wasn't even around when I was going through, but that wasn't even why.
Right.
Right.
It was just that I'm so focused now on where I'm going and where I need to be that I wasn't willing to compromise. My girlfriend says, you guys will talk later. I said, I'm not that vested. I said, I don't mean to sound cold.
But you know where you stand now.
Yes.
So that's the best part.
Yes.
That's the
And
best
it's
part.
not trying to be. It's not trying to be cruel, but it's nothing. It's something about because I went
Yes.
through stuff for years.
Yes.
And it's nothing like finding your peace.
Right.
And finding your peace,
Yes.
and then as you said, if you don't monitor your space,
Right.
you don't know if somebody else found their peace.
Right.
Right.
You don't know because, like we said, how honest are people with each other?
Exactly.
And they're not gonna tell you till they start invading your space.
Right.
And you be like, what? If I knew now, you gotta try to get them out. And then once you get them out, you gotta get your peace back. And that's
Right.
together.
Right.
So it's like like you said, if I
Yes.
can help you, I'll help you,
Yes.
Any other way.
but just not here.
Right.
My husband actually just said that to me. He was like, your answer can sometimes be, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We have some more comments.
Oh, go ahead.
In reference to the voices in the dream, she said God will confirm His word. Tommy Michelle says, I believe if it doesn't line up with God's word, it's us that's why it's important to know the word of God.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
And she also says, let's hear from Tawana.
Because they accept Ralph and LaShonda friend requests.
They're trying to get online.
Shall I do it now?
Trying to get online.
Okay, I'm doing it now.
Michelle says, sometimes I do allow challenging people in my life because you never know if you are meant to be a blessing and a change for that person. Good. Also, it allows you to exercise your ability to remain strong in the midst of bad vibes.
Wow. Oh, wait, say that one again. I like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Also, it allows you to exercise your ability to remain strong in the midst of bad vibes.
I can tell you we have one of them in the room. I gotta go back to Chaz, because Chaz, if you don't
like
want
I'm a
any,
bad vibe?
no, not the bad vibe. But if you don't want anybody in your space, you're not gonna
Right.
welcome them. You're like, I'm good.
I'm the kind of person, you come to my door and I didn't invite you and you didn't call me before to say is it all right to stop by, I won't even answer my door.
Exactly.
I'll peek out the door
Yeah.
and I can see who it is.
We learned
I will not, I have done it to family, friends, it don't matter.
Right.
If you did not get approval prior approval to show up at my door, you probably won't get the chance to cross that threshold because I'm very private when it comes to my personal space. Like I know a lot of people, and I tell people all the time, like even with my friends and those who care to know, like really get to know me, know that it's nothing personal.
Yeah,
I'm the kind of
that's
person
true.
when I want to spend time with you, I'll come to you.
Right.
I don't invite too many people into my personal space. When I'm home,
Right.
and those who I do, is because I trust you.
Right.
There's a level of trust there that is not given to everybody.
Right.
I'm cool with a lot of people, but I don't trust everybody.
Right.
That's
You know what I
nice.
mean? So when you start talking about your home and guarding your personal space and like that, and finding your own peace, and that's something I'm also working to get back towards. Like I said, I've had a lot of things happen in my life recently, but I remember there was a time. My home used to be set up where I like to have my music playing low. I had to have my scented candle burning, and I have a lamp, a low light lamp. I had my mood set. So no matter what went on in my world outside that door, when I crossed into my threshold, I was at peace.
Wow.
And I'm so mad at myself to even allow myself to lose that part of myself, because I recognized that I had it.
Wow.
And even though I was always being, I've always dealt with challenges, but I was able to get through them a lot better than I am today.
Right.
And so now today, it's a constant struggle just to get that part of myself back, because I recognize that was a part of myself that was strong and it helped me through a lot of turmoil.
Absolutely.
And so it's like to have lost that, it makes me sad.
Yeah.
Because it was nothing like just coming home, got that good aroma going, got that, it was like whatever stress was on me,
You could de-stress.
it melted.
Right, it's like
I didn't even think about it. I didn't even think about it until I had to go back out that door the next day.
Oh my, yeah.
And it's important.
Yeah.
It's really important to have that peace.
And don't get me wrong, when I say guarding my personal space and guarding my sanctuary, I agree with the comment that the young lady made about be careful not to miss your blessing as well. You never know who actually might need you. And so turning people away is not necessarily what I mean by that. But if I invite you in and you start making me feel like maybe you're not so positive, then we'll continue the conversation, but we'll continue the conversation outside.
Hey, Sherry, I just really, I always visualize stuff, but I really visualize you just walking around to the door, and you like, and y'all end up on the porch.
But you have to be mindful. I'll bring the glass of wine with me.
But you have to be mindful of your company.
But I don't want to miss my bless. I don't want to miss out on being a blessing to someone who actually might just need a conversation.
Right, but I think you'll know that.
And I
Right.
find the more in tune you become with yourself and the Creator,
Yes.
you will get
And you
that.
took it right out of my
You
mouth.
know when
You
it's
will
not
get the
right.
discernment.
You'll know when to invite in
Yes.
And when
you'll
to
know
usher
when
out.
to-
Absolutely.
Right.
But you know what tends to
Right.
happen? Guilt. I mean, well, I've gotten far away from that because I had a lot of people in my circle, but sometimes I feel guilty about not letting people in because I've accomplished a lot, so now you don't want to be bothered with me because so I'm like, no, come. But then I move further south. And I get here, I'm good. I'm good, all types of stuff. But I used to feel guilty. Yeah, just move. Just move south. But I used to feel guilty with not wanting certain people around me because it was always like profanity and I can't work like people can tell. I'm like, oh God, I can't believe you just said that. Like, it really makes me feel uncomfortable. Or if you're constantly talking about people and gossiping, I'm like so far from that. I'm like, okay, so what can we do to help that person?
Right.
That person can't use help and I'm like, okay, this ain't gonna work. I'm moving to South Jersey. But
Look, I moved to Georgia, remember?
Yeah, you did. But I'm sorry. Let's go to the next question.
Okay. Go ahead, Brenda.
Okay, you know what? I have a little side note, another question, if you will. I'm listening to you ladies, and this question came up in my mind. Do you think when people do have good relationships with themselves, they're in tune with themselves, and I'm
do you? I'm sorry.
What
Can
was
you
the
repeat that
yeah.
again?
If they're more in tune.
So you think that if people have better relationships with themselves, it's because they're more connected to God?
You're saying you're asking.
I'm asking if when they do have better relationships with themselves and they are kind of connected to themselves in terms of having a relationship, do you think it makes them more receptive to hearing?
Yeah, I think
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
For
You're
me,
up here.
absolutely.
Because you're here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so when you are more connected with yourself, are you more receptive to God?
yeah.
Like, are you more open to, I would think direction and I really think, I gotta say yes, my life has changed dramatically when I started self-reflecting and I started searching for truth. I got tired of everything that everybody said because I saw that I was going in a different direction because I believed everybody else. But once I started searching for truth, the truth always pointed me back to the word. And I trusted it, and as I began to grow, the word made more sense. I like when somebody said the closer you get to the light, the more dirt you see. So the closer I got to him, the more dirt I was able to clear out the way, and the closer I got to him, and the more I was able to trust him.
Right.
So that in itself, I would absolutely say it definitely allows you to open up your ears and see.
Because
and
it's,
see
it's a
clear.
reflection. Like,
Oh,
if you truly...
that was perfect.
Yeah, it is. Like,
Yeah.
but that was the only way for me to grow. Like, that was the only way for me to really see who I was
perfect.
until I'm able to give myself and hear what he's saying.
Wow.
Because a lot of times we look at ourselves and think we do no wrong, our stuff don't stink, but the creator already knows. He created you.
Yeah.
And he created you in his image, and he knows how you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So having that relationship with him in return is going to give you that relationship on how you're supposed to be, how he sees you, and that way you can treat other people the way you want to be treated. So without that, for me, I don't know how I would make it.
If I internalize what you said, so if I go horizontally to look for answers, I won't really get it. But if I go vertical up,
Exactly.
I'll see better. And even down to what you stated, as being able to push the negative out. You had to be at a place before where you knew you let it in.
Exactly.
And like all of us have worked hard to come to a certain place.
Right.
So everybody's on their own individual journey.
Yes.
Some people don't have a clue why they have all the problems going on in their life. They haven't sat down and did the initial question that you asked. Do people have a personal relationship with themselves? They're not there yet.
Right.
So when you're just a little bit up higher and you start getting some of your feedback horizontally from your friends and family and loved ones, then you look up, because you're higher up, you look up to get your real information, to know how high to come up, how much you must do, and then you know what you need to do. So that's to the higher power of God to some people, Jesus to some people, Muhammad to other people, whomever. So I totally. This is such an enlightening forum.
No, this is,
and I think Stacey, I think Brenda,
this was awesome because
this is awesome.
you talked about looking up, and sometimes when I have issues, I always say if I can have an out of body experience and I could be up in the corner looking at me, what would I say to me? When I'm going through these things, what advice? Because we're always looking for, we're either giving advice to somebody who's not connected, or we can get the best advice. So I'm just imagining myself in the corner looking at me saying, what do that person see, that inner person see?
Right.
And what would you say to her if you were looking in at, and that's the conversation we really need to have. Just imagine I'm looking at me and what I'm going through right now. What would I say? To take ourselves out, and that's the power of our mind.
Yes.
We have the ability to come outside. Like, even when I say it, I really do see myself like Spider-Woman looking down at me. But we have the ability to think like that.
Right.
And that's why I said we live more like it's fake. It's not reality. We make it up as we go along. In our lives, we really do make everything up as we go along. And it's the ability to have choices to make your next step and your next move. But to have the ability to have that out-of-body experience, to see yourself, to have a conversation is so unique to the human being.
Right.
And it's so powerful.
It is so powerful.
It's so powerful.
And you get so much clarity that way.
What?
Like,
kids.
really
Oh,
took
yeah.
that time out to
Absolutely.
do
You do.
that, our lives would be just,
Yeah.
it would be different.
But guess what? The key word to what you just said was time.
Right.
That's the key. We always act like
Oh,
we
yeah.
Everything is a rush. We don't take times out for ourselves.
Man.
That's one of the questions.
It is absolutely, and I keep wanting to segue to that question.
So, D, I just gotta ask you because you bike ride like
Yes.
25 miles.
Yes.
What's going on in your thought process? Because you're by yourself. It's
Yes.
you and that bike.
Yes.
So what's going on in your thought process while you're riding?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I love cycling so much, because it makes me, I get physically stronger, but mentally stronger. I already know when I leave, if I say I'm going to do 20 miles, I know that I'm going to do 20 miles. I don't think about, I may not make it.
Right.
I know. Yes. And I know that because it builds my mental fortitude, because it's only me in this bike.
Yes.
So I say I'm not racing against anyone. I don't have to compete. All I need to do is do what I set out to do. And that, if I set that goal, the guys laugh at me because I will go ride in the rain. Some of my guys that I ride with, they like top-notch riders, but they're not gonna go ride in the rain. They say to me, it's one thing for us to get caught in the rain. Nobody prepares to just say, it's raining, I'm going to go ride in the rain.
Right.
Because that day I may feel like cycling has become such a part of my ritual and my overall health and wellness that I may need that ride that day.
Right.
To get me through all these things that we're talking about. So it doesn't matter. It's become that it doesn't matter what the condition of the weather is. I know I need this for my health and wellness to get me through my work, my family, and everything else.
So you use it as therapy also. Not only
Absolutely.
so you go out there and you're using it for your therapy.
Absolutely. When I got my divorce, that was my therapy. I really probably could have gone into a depression had I not got back on the bike. And it started out with just a few miles, and then I started getting into it heavily. And last year, I did 3,000 miles on the bike for the year.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I just absolutely love cycling, and it clears my mind. And then I can come back and deal with what I need to deal with. But yeah, it's just you against yourself out there.
Right.
And it's amazing.
So Dee found a way to, because people think physical. I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And I always tell them that the brain is a muscle too.
Absolutely.
And you really do have to work.
Right.
You have to work your brain. And the same thing happens when I'm running.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, when I tell you so many amazing thoughts come through, so many ideas, business ideas, people I can work with things, that's what, because it's just me.
Right.
It's just me. Like when I run with a group is one thing, but sometimes I really do need to work out by myself. Because it gives me, so when you talked about time, we really do have to take that time, that mental, we just got to find a place. I think meditation is amazing.
And when you talk about going back from that transition, I had to rearrange my entire space. I don't have a television in my bedroom.
That's good for you. I'm trying to get there.
On purpose. No television.
That is so, I think that is
Only two things go on there.
That's right. That helps the mind too.
Exactly.
Relax.
So I don't have a television in my bedroom. And then another thing that helped me, I was, when I was getting divorced and I wanted to keep everything intact financially and then seeing where I can shave off. I've been without cable for almost 3 years.
Wow, you're rich.
That was
Exactly.
I was looking at it from a financial perspective.
Okay.
But what it did for me, for my overall health, was amazing because it forced me to pay more attention to my business or tap into other areas within me that I would have been wasting.
That's life,
right? So it said, when we talked about it earlier, because when I say you have that self-talk, who are you now? what do you like to do? What can you do? And when you speak about rapping, when I did these rap videos, it started out as a joke, and then my daughter thought it was so funny and cute. Now I do these little rap. It's like an alter ego. It was cute. That would have never came out. So we do dig when we settle our environment and we quiet the noise.
Say it again.
Yeah,
Quiet the noise.
we would really dig and find. I call it an evolution of D, because it really was.
Yeah.
And it was just sitting quiet, getting to know D, and without that cable, then I said, okay, I already knew when I go home. I'm not saying I don't watch television. I watch Netflix or whatever when I do, but you know how that can hold us hostage. And then if people watching something, we'll chime in and watch. And so it became, okay, I don't have it, so I can't be pulled into there. So wasting time. So how else can I redirect that time? So it went into fitness. It went into, learning more about business and, and really interacting with people.
Yeah, and it's just helping you grow.
Yes.
That's what it sounds like, a lot of growth.
That's right. That's exactly what it did for me. When I was just looking to save a couple of dollars.
That's growth.
So that is growth.
Bank account.
So Tawana, with your,
We have time for one more question. It's your question.
Oh, D, go ahead. It's your question. Go ahead.
What was the question again, Brenda?
Time when you are trying to make positive changes.
Yes. Annette mentioned earlier about negative thinking, and it reminded me of a seminar or something, and the guy called it ANTS, automatic negative thinking. So I started to tell myself sometimes, get rid of the ants, get rid of the ants. And then another book that I read that Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, the woman spoke in there about our chatterbox, that voice in our head. It just tells us a million thoughts go through our head, like you were saying, and then going back to what I said, you have to quiet the noise, period. The noise from family, friends, social media, and the noise from ourselves. The noise from ourselves, and just sit and just be. And then for me, that's important for my next step. So I can ask advice, and I have only a couple trusting people that I will receive advice. But I take it all back, get with myself and the Creator, and say, what do you think? What do you think?
That's the bottom line.
And then it's just, and you know what? It's a great thing, because when you do have your environment settled, the energy and the spirit will come to you quicker as opposed to all this chaos. And and for me, some people think that I'm on Valium because I'm so
I can tell you.
I'm so cool, right? Because I think for me, nothing in this world is important that I have to get so high strong. And after going through such a tumultuous situation and the pain and then the disappointment, I said, you know what? For the rest of my days here, I tell my daughter, don't go too high, don't go too low, just try to stay autopilot in all things. Even if you get excited, you can get excited, but don't get so high. If you're disappointed, don't get low, just try to keep it right here. And sometimes I see some of my colleagues getting upset because the principal didn't do this and did. I say, honey, when I walk out this door, that's it. I don't think about it until I come back, because there's still life out there. And after this, so for me, we constantly have to tell ourselves and talk to ourselves and keep it all in perspective. And that's what I do, and it works for me, because I'll sit and just with my dog on my lap, it'll just be quiet. you know, and I'm just thinking, or just allowing the spirit to come to me, and that works for me. So I just quiet the noise. So when I heard that question about, is it important to mind your mind? Yes, because I just quiet the noise, and everything else becomes not that important. You know, if it's not, my goal is to try to make the world a better place, affect humanity, and see what good I can do in the world. If it's not about that, I'm really not concerned. And when you talk about feeling bad, because it's sort of like survivor's remorse, because we share similar background stories from growing up in poverty and being raised in the family of heroin addicts, and that era really wiped my family out. And when I think back, you say we do become uncomfortable in certain environments, because I believe the Creator puts us on. If they're not on our trajectory or on our frequency, we're not supposed to be there. We're not supposed to be on that path. So the Creator see how all of us came together in this, because the Creator, we're tapped on the same frequency. So He brings us together. So when family, I get the same thing. Oh, she thinks she's no. We not riding on the same path.
Exactly.
You know, so we ain't on the same vibe. So no, it's no disrespect, but I have my eye here. So I believe the Creator put us in line with who we think. And when I went through my situation, some people that were just friends became my family, especially on my block. They loved up on me, and they really showed up for me. And I believe that's what the Creator wants for us. We try to force these relationships and situations and make it work, instead of accepting it for what it is. And I've learned to accept things for what they are. And that's why it was so easy for me to tell that family member, no, I can't do it.
That was powerful.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a segment on family relationships. We're gonna invite people to come in. We're gonna talk about work relationships. We're gonna talk about intimate relationships. But we wanted to start this one out with the relationship that you have with yourself, because we really have that conversation. We constantly keep fighting within, but we never really identify our own issues, and we're always trying to figure out how to make it work with people we believe it should work for. We should be working with, but the most important person is us. And I tell people all the time, we have to carry this body around. People can help you if you're sick, they can do all that, but nobody can do anything for your body but you. Nobody can do anything for your mind but you. You can go to a counselor, psychiatrist, pastor, all of that. They can constantly try to pour into you, but nobody can transform the way you think without you being actively engaged in your own transformation.
And you have to have a made up mind to do so.
You have to,
That's where it starts.
That's why I keep saying we got to start with kids. We're at this age now. You know, I'm 21, but
I'm 19.
but we're starting now. But we're starting now. So when you talk about being on that path, now we know how to be deliberate and intentional. But if we can tell kids right now, know where you want to go. But it all starts with the way you think, and then you're gonna get there. But if you allow all
Can I just jump in on something to your point?
Please.
And a pastor said this. You can't fix, if you're emotionally broken, you can't fix it with spiritual healing. And a pastor said this. He said, so you can come to church and hoop and holler, but if you're emotionally broken, that's not going to fix. You have to fix where the problem is. So if it's an emotional brokenness, you have to work on that. If you're spiritually broken, because they're not the same.
They're not.
People think they're the same.
Exactly.
They are not the same.
We are spirit, soul, and body. We are spirit, soul, and body. And I say the same thing. We might be on for a minute, guys, but I say the same thing. Like a lot of people keep going to church. They go to church every single Sunday, but they keep going through the same issue every week, and they keep because they need that emotional fix.
Yes.
You need that emotional fix, but you have to understand that you're looking for an emotional fix. So it's your emotions that you're trying.
Right.
It's the emotions that you're trying to fix.
Right.
Go ahead. What you say, Brenda?
That's called insanity, doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
20, 25 years sitting in the same seat every Sunday.
But I think a lot of times people do that because it's a religion thing.
Right.
It's not a relationship.
Right.
It's a whole nother topic.
Oh, we so gonna have that whole
It's
You don't
so
know
true.
what
It's
it is.
taught behavior.
Yeah, it is.
It's like I tell people all the time, I'm spiritual and I have my own walk. And it doesn't mean that I have to sit in church. Like, because people say, do you go to church? And I'm like, no. Doesn't mean I don't have a relationship.
Exactly.
People always trying to figure out what's my belief.
Yeah.
Oh,
They,
But that's why
They
we have
think
to
'cause
stop
if you-
judging.
yeah. They think because you don't get up every Sunday and go sit in the house of the Lord,
Right.
that you can't be a believer.
Right.
But like I tell people, I was going through times in my life that I know it wasn't nobody but God that pulled me through, because I sometimes have to look back like, God, how did you do that? Because I know I didn't do that. Because there's no way I could have on my own
It's
got
tradition.
through that
It's
situation.
tradition, and we need to
When
break
I
that
tell you, we
tradition.
gotta have a conversation.
I know.
I'm talking a real conversation.
Yes,
And I'm telling you, the reason why my life changed is because I just said, God, only thing I'm asking you for is truth.
Right.
And like I said, I had been walking, and I was a carbon copy of what everybody said I was. And I had latched on to so many things young, coming from that kind of environment.
Yes.
I latched on to things not knowing. And then it got to the point where I said, all I want is truth.
Right.
And asking him for truth removed people out of my life. I didn't remove them. Trust me, I did not remove
Yes.
people. People removed themselves. Places I used to go, a lot of things, because I asked him for truth.
That's right.
And when I'm only searching for truth, it's sending me on a path. So all those places I used to go are not in
That's
my
right.
Your desire.
That's right.
It's not, they don't even
it's
show
not
us
your
that.
desire. It doesn't,
Right.
because I have a line of focus.
Right.
Right.
But that is so another. That is a conversation.
topic.
That is, but so what we like to do when this was amazing. This is amazing. But what we like to do.
Yes. Thank you for having us.
So if you guys want to do a takeaway, I'll start with the takeaway. What I took, I really grew from everybody. You talked about time. You talked about and just allowing people to come into your house and instill your peace and energy. Things that you don't think about, like allowing people into your house, and just even that self-talk and reflecting and just shutting everything out.
Yes.
TV, and even as you mentioned TV is another, and you gotta be cognizant of, that's like allowing a bunch of people in your house, and then you're just inviting them in. That's all the people, the physical people you keep out of. But what I'm saying is, you stopping people from coming in your house.
Some of them on the
But
TV.
they on the TV, and you are allowing them in every Thursday and every Monday.
That's where they go.
Right, and you are, but you like, I ain't letting my cousin and my brother back in. But you got these other family members that faithfully every Thursday. Right. So you gotta be cognizant of that. So even that, I gotta be cognizant of what I watch, who I listen to, just everything. Even as you talked about your journey, but I took away, and that's why I want to do things like this, because I'm gonna grow from you guys. We're gonna grow from each other, and then other people are gonna grow. And another reason why GoldMind, this is important, as we have even our GoldMind consultant page. I want to bring what you're doing to light so other people can start following you and connecting with you and following you, and just everything that everybody's doing, we can follow and we can learn and we can grow. I keep telling people it's enough money for everybody. There's trillions of dollars in the world. We just keep counting what's in New Jersey.
Or what's in your own bank account.
Right. So if you trying to protect that little thing, if you keep your hands closed, you ain't ready to receive. But I know that everybody has something unique to offer, and I love these conversations. And like I said, if you guys have a